Okay, it's Tears Day, the day named after the Norse god of war. You ready to go to battle? I know I am. I am your host, Professor Paul Markle. And on the other side of the glass case of emotion is my producer and the boy wonder, Jared. Say hi to the folks, Jared.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Jared is...
And if you want to tell me how you're doing, because I know you can't answer me right now, you can do that via Facebook.
That's right.
Gun on Facebook, facebook.com/Student of the Gun.
Get it all out there as you eat your blueberries. He's doing his antioxidants. Blueberries are antioxidant.
These blueberries aren't as good as the blueberries that you guys grow, though.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of hard to grow blueberries in January. Weird January. Global climate change.
Yeah, it was like 32, then it was 70, and now it's like 40 again.
I've got one of those. I'm one of those geeks that has a thermometer in his truck, so every time when I get it in the morning, I look up at it. So Saturday morning, I get in it to go to work, and it's 31 degrees. Okay, cool. Monday morning, I get in the truck to go to work. 2 days later, 48 hours, and it's 71 degrees. So 40-degree temperature change. The next day, Tears Day, Tuesday, it's 51 degrees. So, yeah, I guess that's what that has to be what Al Gore's talking about, Jared. Global climate change. A 40-degree change over a 96-hour period. It's global climate change. All right, folks, we're not here to talk about global climate change. We're here to talk about being a student of the gun and to educate, entertain, and enlighten you. Maybe give you a little bit of enjoyment as well. And we hope that we're helping you get by your commute or your daily workout or whatever it is that you happen to be doing. And I'm going to tell you this, if you're on the treadmill, give me 10 more minutes. Oh, how did you know I was on the treadmill? Because I know. I can see you. All right, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, but before we get into it, we want to thank our good friends at Brownells, brownells.com, Colt at colt.com, SWAT Fuel at theswatfuel.com. If you go to SWAT Fuel, make sure that you use the promo code SOTG2014. You do that, you're going to save 20% off your total order, and that's righteous. Velocity Triggers, designed for precision. Available at velocitytriggers.com. Not only do they have AR triggers, but they also have pins and parts and so forth, so check them out. And XS Sights, the fastest sights in any light. Check them out at xssights.com. All right, folks. Oh, Jiminy Crickets. The title today is Blood in the Streets. You're like, what? Is there blood in the streets? Is there going to be blood in the streets? Well, blood in the streets could be the theme, the streets, because you know, Jared, you know that there are guns on the street and in the streets.
Are they like laying on the street? Or
I don't know, but every time a hippie liberal puke-faced douche nozzle gets in front of a microphone, they talk about guns on the streets and blood in the streets and I don't know, it's taking it to the street. Doobie Brothers, you tell me. But we've got, this is kind of a combination slave theme here. We've got slave state news, and it's got two slave states kind of combined into one. And Jared's going to kick it off for us, and I'm going to jump into it.
I like to teach you all the rules. I get to see them set in stone. I like it when you chain me to the bed, but then you see it's never shown.
Thank you, Puddle of Mud, for our slave state news update. And this is a Hawaiian slave state news update. And you're like, wow, we don't often get Hawaiian slave state news updates. But Hawaii absolutely 100% is a slave state. I know it's pretty.
You sounded like Afro Man when you said Hawaiian.
Hawaiian. I know it's pretty, and they have mountains and volcanoes and black sand beaches, and people like to go there. But ask somebody who actually lived in the real part of Hawaii, not the tourist area.
I know a couple people that have lived there, and they hated it.
And I know a friend, I have a good friend who lived there in Hawaii, grew up in Hawaii as a Caucasian man, and he told me about his experiences growing up as a Caucasian person going to Hawaiian public schools, and how the public school, check this out, Jared, do you know Kevin? Well, I'll tell you,
Kevin Bacon?
No, not Kevin Bacon. Different Kevin. He said that when he was going to Hawaiian public school, he said not only did the little Samoan Hawaiian kids make fun of him, he said the teacher actually encouraged it. He said the teacher would walk down the aisle and pull his hair. He didn't like Hawaii.
Did he punch the teacher in the face?
He was,
because that's assault, and I would consider that self-defense.
I don't know. He was 7, 8, 9 years old, but he's a big Marine type person now. But anyway, Hawaii has extremely strict gun laws because there is no crime in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, they definitely don't have any crime there.
Have you ever watched Dog the Bounty Hunter? I have to believe that the number one most hated person in Hawaii by the Hawaiian Board of Tourism is got to be Dog the Bounty Hunter, because he doesn't show the touristy, nice, happy part of Hawaii. If you watch that show, you're like, you mean they have like poverty and drug abuse and crime and theft and murder and rape and robbery in Hawaii? I thought it was paradise. Well, in the people,
there might be one area of paradise.
There's that one little area that you have to pay thousands of dollars to go to, and you shouldn't leave that area. Well, in Hawaii, they're on the books. They are a May issue, discretionary issue, concealed carry state. But you guys know how that works. When you have discretionary carry and you allow the state to give you permission or not to give you permission, the state is apt to just say, no. But not only that, we learned from this story that in addition to like having to beg the state for permission to carry a gun, you have to register your guns. You have to be a registered gun owner. And you say, well, all right, Paul, what's the big dealio? Well, Hawaii is really the Hawaiian state. The ruling class members in Hawaii are really scared that Hawaii's concealed carry law may change because of something that happened in California. You're like, how would something that happened in California affect Hawaii? Well, you guys know about the Ninth Circus Court in California. Well, they had a ruling, and Hawaii falls within the Ninth Circuit's jurisdiction. And there's a very similar case. There was a case in San Diego, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, where there was a suit and the court found in favor of the plaintiff. Well, there's almost an identical suit going on in Hawaii, and they're afraid that the Hawaiian courts will have to apply or recognize what, Jared?
Concealed carry?
No, judicial what?
Oh, judicial precedent.
Yeah, that the courts established judicial precedent. That they actually found that they had to follow the Constitution. Ugh. God, the state really hates that when the courts tell them that they have to follow the Constitution. That just gets under their skin. Well, they're all a Twitter in Hawaii now. They're scared. They're shivering. As you and merry old England might say, they've got a fright. They've got a fright. And what Jared's going to do is he's going to go ahead, and we've got an audio clip that comes from a news story. It's like Hawaiian Channel 7 on your side at 6 or something like that. But Jared's going to go ahead and play that clip, and then we're going to discuss it.
I'm going to play about half of it first, and I'll stop it after the Asian-looking dude on there, what he says.
And then we'll discuss it.
Yeah, I'll stop it after what he says,
cool.
and then we'll discuss that and then pick it up. All right, you ready?
I am ready.
New at 6, Oahu gun owners are used to waiting in long lines to register their firearms, but very few of them are allowed to carry a concealed weapon.
Some of them say it shouldn't be up to the police chief to issue those permits, but the state is fighting a legal battle to keep it that way. Hawaii Solicitor General has asked an appeals court to reconsider a recent ruling that could allow more people to carry guns in San Diego County.
That county's law, which is similar to Hawaii's, was ruled unconstitutional. And Chris Tanaka joins us with our top story new at 6. Chris, this case could go to the Supreme Court?
Could, most likely will, regardless of the outcome because of what's involved. The case in California made it much easier to carry a concealed firearm. The reason Hawaii is interjecting is because the outcome of that case will inevitably affect our law. A
for all practical purposes, this is a no-issue state, not a may issue, not a shall issue, a no-issue state. And that's wrong.
Harvey Gerwig, head of the Hawaii Rifle Association, gives his definition of Hawaii's concealed carry law. It's similar to how Southern California's used to be.
You had to show them some extraordinary cause why you would carry a concealed firearm. That doesn't work with the Constitution.
A panel of judges agreed, making it easier to do
Listen
so.
to what this next
Now
one
the
says.
state of Hawaii is stepping in since the state is under that court's jurisdiction and trying to have the case reheard and the decision reversed.
We think that to have anyone be able to carry publicly presents a serious danger to public safety, because basic confrontations or conflicts in public would turn deadly.
At the heart of
That was the Solicitor General of
What's her
Hawaii.
name?
I don't remember his
Her name is Gerard Lau,
Gerard
L-A-U. Yeah, Gerard is very, very concerned. He's very concerned that, and I'm going to give you the quote. "We think that to have anyone to be able to carry publicly presents a real danger to public safety, because basic confrontations in public would turn deadly," said Solicitor General Gerard Lau. Gerard, shut up. You're a moron. You're a tool. You are one of this Gerard Lau. Gerard Lau is not a unique individual. Gerard Lau is part of a bureaucracy. He is part of the inner workings of the bureaucracy. He's got his hand in the public coffers. He's being paid by your tax dollars. And so he's put himself in the position where he's an elitist. And you peasants out there, this is what Gerard thinks about you. That the average everyday person, and it's not just Gerard, it's Feinstein and et al. It's the sandwich makers.
Who's et al?
Really?
Is that an Indian?
You're going to play that with me? Okay. Anyway, so Gerard says that we think to have anyone to be able to carry publicly. Anyone? You mean any peasant? You mean any slave? Any serf? You mean the peasant class? Now, Gerard, does this law apply to members of the state, people who work for the state? Oh, no, they're exempt. The people that work for the state are exempt from this law. It's only the peasants with whom we apply this law to. Okay, Gerard, thank you very much. Folks, this is the same regurgitated garbage that they've been saying for going on 30-plus years. Florida has had shall issue concealed carry for 3 decades. And when Florida did it, they predicted there's going to be blood in the streets. People are going to be shooting each other at stop signs, at red lights, over parking spaces. It's just going to be anarchy. It's going to be the Wild West. I can't believe he didn't say that. He missed out on the opportunity to say the Wild West. And then they did it again. Basically, every state that has passed a shall issue, the ninnies go out in public and they predict mass slaughter and carnage. The financial analysts at Yahoo News predict carnage in the streets.
Yeah, yeah.
Different show. But anyway, they did it in Ohio. They did it in Texas. Everywhere that they've amended the law to be shall issue, they pee their pants. And they're like, oh, you just wait and see. Oh, murder, rape, robbery. Oh, people are going to be killing each other. So what Gerard basically thinks is that you peasants are a bunch of uncontrollable animals, and that you lack the ability to have self-control. That if we allow you to have a gun within reach, that you're just so unpredictable that you can't be trusted. So I can't be trusted not to commit homicide because someone took my parking space? If we have people in the world that will kill each other over parking spaces and red lights and fender benders and stuff, do we not have a bigger problem than guns? Are guns really the problem if the citizens are willing to kill each other over parking spaces? And is that how you deal with that problem, is you disarm the people? That way they can't hurt each other. Folks, people have been hurting each other since basically forever. People have been killing each other with rocks. Open the Bible, and Cain killed Abel with a stone. And from that point forward, it's been game on. Man has been killing man with blunt objects and then sharp objects and then objects that go bang since the since beginning of time. And deciding that we're not going to allow you to possess this object. So, hey, Gerard, right now, currently in Hawaii, there are really strict gun laws. So somebody needs to, and there's the deal. How do these reporters, do they not think? Can they not ask questions? Jared, do you think that it ever occurred to this reporter that was talking to Gerard Lau to say, so, Gerard, under the current laws that you're afraid they're going to go away, is there any violent crime in Hawaii? Is there any crime that involves a firearm in Hawaii?
That's what doesn't make sense to me, is that the people that interview these representatives, they never ask them hard questions.
Well, all right. I think we all know why that is. Because
I know why, but I just
they're on the same team with these guys. They're just giving them the opportunity to reinforce their agenda.
That annoys me. Where are the reporters that actually have balls?
They don't exist. They're gone. They used to exist, and now they're gone. They've all been castrated. They don't make it through their first semester at.
You want to know what I have to say to
Cambridge Law or Cambridge Journalism School or whatever.
You want to know what I have to say to Gerard?
What do you have to say to Gerard?
This is Sparta!
Really?
Yeah, that's what I have to say to him.
Wow. Okay. You want to go ahead and pick up with the audio clip?
Yep. Okay.
All right.
This case and any other that deals with gun control is the interpretation of the Second Amendment.
We think that the proper interpretation of the Second Amendment does not give anyone a right to public carry as a general matter.
I take the Second Amendment to be pretty darn literal. I don't think it needs a whole lot of interpretation.
There is no timetable on the Ninth Circuit Court's decision whether to rehear the case or not. However, if the initial decision is upheld, an appeal could come.
I think there certainly would be strong attempts made to take it up with the U.S. Supreme Court if that were to happen.
Important to note, a stay has been issued in California, so people do not have that easier access to those concealed carry permits yet. Additionally, a similar case was heard in Hawaii, and the outcome will largely be determined by the outcome in Southern California. Chris Tanaka, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Chris. Meantime, a major new study out of Stanford finds right-to-carry laws are actually linked to an increase in violent crime. The researchers say this further debunks a 1997 study that claimed more guns lead to less crime. That study had already been criticized by the National Research Council, which found there was no evidence to make that link. And now this new research, using data through 2010, finds right-to-carry laws are associated with a rise in assaults, robberies, rapes, and murders.
All right, there's so much. You were going to fade it out,
Yeah, I was
going
to fade it out because I thought that was going to.
No, I knew that was there at the end. All right, so there's so much to talk about here. So we got little Gerard Lau, who doesn't believe that the Second Amendment means just anyone can have a gun. That's not what the Second Amendment means. It means, according to Gerard Lau, the Second Amendment means that the state has the authority to say who can have guns, when they can have them, where they can have them, and if they are allowed to have them. Okay, that's Gerard's interpretation there. If you're listening to me, you probably know how to read, I'm guessing, and that the Second Amendment doesn't say, oh, but the state can, unless you interpret it that way. Now, little Gerard is really scared. He's got his panties all twisted up. And let me finish this.
Okay.
He's got his panties all twisted up, and he thinks if they do uphold this, then it needs to go to the Supreme Court. Oh, I wish it would, Gerard, you little girly man. Because that's what they don't want. They don't want another the Supreme Court already held it in Heller. As a matter of fact, there's already judicial precedent. That is why the Ninth Circuit ruled the way they did. Folks, it's already been upheld. There's nothing to take. You guys know the Heller case? The Heller case that made it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they said that the D.C. law forbidding the ownership of firearms, specifically handguns, was not legal. And then they followed that up saying that the D.C. 100% ban on concealed carry was illegal, unconstitutional. And then they did the same thing in Illinois, and then they did the same thing in San Diego. But apparently little Gerard here, little Mr. Lau, forgive me for making fun of the socialist, elitist member of the ruling class. You'll have to forgive me. He doesn't, being a public service.
Maybe he'll cancel his subscription to the bonus hour.
He might cancel his subscription to the bonus hour because I offended him. But, yeah, maybe little Gerard Lau, he might want to do a little research. He is the Solicitor General for the state. So I'm guessing that, or for Oahu, I don't know if it's the entire state of Hawaii or just the region, but I'm guessing that the Solicitor General probably should know a little bit about constitutional law and legal precedent. But, hey, maybe he hasn't had the opportunity yet. Now, since the talking head on the news channel there, who's obviously, he's down with the sickness here. He's down with the people don't need to be carrying guns. Since he mentioned it, I went ahead and pulled a story. This is from OC-breeze.com, but basically it discusses the Ninth Circuit Court's decision. And this was actually dated, you know what I really hate, Jared? I really hate when dipsticks, when they post articles and don't date the articles. But anyway, it says, after a 3-member panel of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in San Diego County's concealed carry regulations is unconstitutional, and the county sheriff declined to appeal the ruling, a number of parties filed petitions with the court for a hearing of the case and see blah, 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 blah. So essentially, the 3-member panel has granted an extension and a stay of the mandate. All right. You guys want to know who filed for this stay to keep the people of San Diego from being granted concealed carry permits? San Diego County? Guess. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. The Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence motion to extend time for filing a petition and rehearing of the en blanc and stay the issuance of the mandate. All right, so it's the Brady Campaign for the prevention of handgun violence. That's wonderful. That's just Jim Dandy. All right, moving on. In addition to this other horse nonsense here, let's talk about this Stanford study. This came out in November, and there was a bunch of stuff going on in November, so I don't really think that this got the attention that the insider elitist douche nozzles wanted it to get, because they did put it out right before. They should have known not to put it out. Oh, is that a Ruger P85? I think it is. This story comes to us from WashingtonPost.com, Dateline November 14th, 2014. And more guns, less crime. Surely you've heard this mantra before. There's even an entire book devoted to it. As Emily Badger noted a while back, it has become a staple of our national gun control debate. The idea that more guns lead to less crime appears on gun policy fact sheets as evidence debunking gun control myths in congressional committee reports. The notion stems from a paper published in 1997 by economists John Lott and David Mustard, who looked at county-level crime data from 1977 to 1992 and concluded that allowing citizens to carry concealed weapons deters violent crimes, and it appears to produce no increase in accidental deaths. Of course, the study of gun crime has advanced significantly since then. Yeah, way back then in 1997, they didn't have the ability to study the gun crime like we do today. Some researchers have gone so far as to call for Lott and Mustard's original study to be completely discredited. One of the major critiques of the study came from the National Research Council. Hey, Jared, who do you suppose funds the National Research Council?
I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably us.
National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, Medicine, and if it's the national, well, is it funded by the government? Do they get taxpayer money? Do they get grants? Well, let me see. They're headquartered at 505th Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. So we have an inside the Beltway, Washington, D.C. think tank that has decided, we're going to discredit. We're going to discredit this. Folks, let me tell you what. Ever since Lott, right, and if you've ever listened to an interview of John Lott, or if you've ever read any of his stuff, John Lott was actually, I believe John Lott lived in Illinois. John Lott in 1997 and was not a big pro-gun guy. He wasn't a board member of the NRA. As a matter of fact, if you look at his history, he was kind of, middle of the road about the whole thing. And he took him and Mr. Mustard, David Mustard, they undertook this study, and there have been several interviews with Lott where he said he was kind of surprised because he wasn't expecting to find what he found. But he did find what he found, and he published it, and he did a book called More Guns, Less Crime. Folks, that report and that book has been a thorn under the saddle of the elitists, of the anti-gun, pro-government. Basically, it's this. It's not so much anti-gun, and let's face facts. Gun control is not about the elimination of firearms. Never has been and never will be. Gun control is about who gets to possess them. That's it. It's about controlling who is allowed to have guns. Never will they say, we're going to pass 100% gun control and no one who lives within our borders will possess a firearm. Never will that happen. Because they understand that guns are really good at keeping the sheep in line and making them do what they're told. You're like, that's bullcrap, Paul. Really? You pay your taxes at the barrel of a gun, at the point of a gun. No, I don't. Really? Riddle me this, Batman. Try to not pay your taxes for a year. Try to not pay your taxes for a couple of years. What's going to happen? Well, I'll get a letter in the mail, and it'll demand. It'll demand what? It'll demand that I appear in front of this magistrate or in front of this committee or in front of this agent and explain my delinquency in taxes. Okay. So let's say you throw that letter in the garbage can and you say, F you, I'm not going. Who shows up at your house to put bracelets on you and take you away? An ambulance driver?
Unicorns?
A fireman? A kindergarten teacher? Gerard Lau, Solicitor General? No, they send men with guns to your home to remove you and forcibly take you to the county jail. Oh, well, that's just... No. Folks, if you don't think that the government rules by the point of a gun, you're high, and you need to stop smoking whatever you're smoking and listen to me for a second. Gun control is never about eliminating guns from the country or the society or the community. It's about deciding who gets to possess them and who is not allowed to possess them. It always has been that way, and it always will be that way. Gun control is not new. It is as old as time itself. As soon as the kings and the shoguns and whoever figured out that if the peasants have swords, they don't have to do everything we say when we say to do it. It's kind of hard to enslave the peasants when they have swords and bows and spears. So here's what we need to do. We need to pass a law that says peasants aren't allowed to own spears. Peasants aren't allowed to own swords. And we're going to make it punishable by death if we catch any peasant with a sword. And we're going to make them so scared of having swords that they'll turn in their neighbors who have swords. That's what we're going to do. It's as old as time. It's not new. The hardware changes, the technology changes, and that's what's so unique about the United States of America. Go anywhere else in the world. Anywhere. I know there's better economic policies in some places of the world. Not very many, but a couple. But go anywhere else in the world and tell me where. Now, you could go to some kind of a third world cesspool where it's basically devolved into a state of anarchy, and you can buy whatever hardware cash can provide you. Go to Somalia. Dude, you got cash, go to Somalia. You can buy rocket launchers. You can go out in the desert and shoot, 12-7 Russian machine guns all day long if you got enough cash. But
I think Student of the Gun needs to take a trip to Somalia.
Like a safari?
Yeah, like a safari.
Maybe we could get Paul Howe to be our PM.
Okay.
Or our PH. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. He could be our PH.
Yeah, let's do that.
So continuing on with this Stanford nonsense. You're like, okay, so blah, 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 blah. Now Stanford law professor John Donahue and his colleagues have added another full decade of analysis, extending it through 2010, and have concluded that the opposite of Lott and Mustard's original conclusion, it's true, conclusion, blah, 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 more guns equal more crime. All right, here we go. The totality, folks, did I tell you that I loved you today? Okay. The totality of the evidence based on educated judgments about the best statistical models suggest that the right to carry laws are associated with substantially higher murder rates, aggravated assault, robbery, rape, and murder. I'm sorry. I threw murder in there twice. Oh. What did you say? What did they Mel Gibson and not Mel Gibson, Mel Brooks movie? He said what did he say? You said rape twice or arson twice. What did he say twice? He said I like that. Oh, I can't remember.
I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, anyway,
I can see the scene though.
Yeah, you see the scene. He goes. You said that twice. He goes, Donahue said in an interview with the Stanford Report. Get this. A Stanford professor gave an interview to the Stanford Report. What? That's crazy. Evidence suggests that right to carry laws are associated with an 8% increase in the incidences of aggravated assault. He says that this number is likely a floor. He said this number is likely a floor. I didn't know a number could be a floor. And that some statistical models and methods show an increase of 33% of aggravated assaults involving firearms after the passage of concealed carry laws. Okay. Ask me if I put any credence in this. The answer would be no. Step number one, I don't believe anything that comes out of Stanford. Stanford is a hardcore far-left institution, and they can go ahead and bite one.
I want to see their sources.
Yeah,
for
and
where
part
they
two,
studied.
this they've been trying to undermine Lott's study for this. This just killed them when Lott came out with this study. It just killed them. Let me ask you guys this: what do we know about violent crime based on the FBI uniform crime statistics? The FBI's uniform crime report that they put out every year.
It has went down.
Yes, violent crime has gone down nationally. However, there are certain areas, certain segments of the population where it has not. And so my question to you is, let's say that the murder rate in Chicago is up, and the murder rate in Washington, D.C. is up, and the murder rate in Philadelphia and New York and Gary, Indiana, that those are all up. So do you believe that as a citizen of Provo, Utah, or Dallas, Texas, or Biloxi, Mississippi, that based upon the fact that the murder rates are up in Chicago et al., that you should be disarmed, that you should leave your gun at home, turn in your gun, not be allowed to carry a gun? Don't carry a gun in Hawaii because the murder rates are up in Chicago. Now, riddle me this, Batman. Jared, what is the which city, which municipality in the United States of America has the highest murder rate nationwide?
Chicago?
It starts with a C, ends with an O. It's Chicago. Which city in the United States of America has the strictest gun control laws as a city? Time's up.
Are you still asking
The answer
me?
is Chicago.
Oh, okay.
It's a rhetorical question, Woodcock. So, did anyone think? Oh, let me guess. The reporter, the journalism major from the Stanford Report, didn't think to ask Professor Donahue from Stanford how he puts together the fact that Chicago has the highest murder rate in the country and the strictest gun laws of any city. He wasn't able to, he couldn't figure that out. And how does that jive with his report? Because according to Donahue, more gun laws mean we're going to be safer. Because that's working out really great in merry old England, right? And Australia and India, et al. It worked out. France, people are like, oh, dude, you want to talk about the France thing? Let's talk about the France thing. When that broke, people in France and in Europe were like, oh, we're allowed to own guns, shut up. Yeah, you're allowed to get a license to own a gun that you can hunt with. You're not an armed citizen. Shut up. I don't even know what. Owning a gun does not make you an armed citizen. So, yeah, if you guys feel like, rotting your brain, you can read the story from the Washington Post. Now, the last thing that we're going to mention, and I've got it in the show notes right here, is actually the John Lott study. Now, I'm going to put all of these links. All the links are obviously going to be at studentofthegunradio.com under the show notes. If you want to go ahead and avail yourselves to those, you may do that as well. What did you just drop in my show notes here, Hippie?
That was what I was going to say earlier when you were talking about that dude, the Asian guy, Gerard. The Second Amendment. Did you see that video where?
That Steve Reichert shared? Yeah.
Yeah, they sent off the Second Amendment to be analyzed by an expert in the English language to figure out, because everybody's argument is the translation of how they interpret the Second Amendment. So they sent it off to this English, the expert in the English language, and he interpreted it in English language, how it was written, and you guys just need to watch the video. Go to studentofthegunradio.com.
Why don't you just play it? Can you play the audio?
Let me see.
How long is it?
Yeah, I think it's like 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I could probably just play it. Let me look right here real quick, talk to him for a second.
Okay, I can talk to you guys for a second. Hey, how you doing today? Good job on the treadmill there. This is spontaneity in practice.
You just want me to play the whole thing?
Yeah, just go ahead.
It's 5 minutes and 9 seconds.
Listen up, hippies.
And the only thing that this video
Perk up your
needs
ears.
is more flames.
That's right. It needs more flames.
Needs more flames.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle, and this is the Firewall.
Yep, flames.
Names.
Now, just as a quick public service announcement in these days of increasing lawlessness, federal encroachment on constitutional limits, and crybaby progressive whininess in general, I thought I might take a moment to pass out a little rhetorical ammunition to those of you who have to hear from people who, if they can no longer pretend that the Second Amendment doesn't exist, then at least try to misinterpret it to the best of their ability. The Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Now, progressives read this and say that only those people in a well-regulated militia have the right to keep and bear arms. Let's find out why this is utter nonsense, shall we? Now, over at the Constitution Society, author J. Neil Schulman conducted a remarkable exercise. He sent the text of the Second Amendment not to a lawyer, but to an expert on the English language. Roy Copperan taught journalism at USC for 17 years and served on the usage panel of the American Heritage Dictionary. Merriam-Webster's dictionary frequently cites him as an expert on American English usage. Now, I'm paraphrasing their remarkable exchange here, but basically, Schulman asked Copperan the following questions. 1. Can the sentence be interpreted to grant the right to keep and bear arms solely to a well-regulated militia? Copperend replied, the sentence does not restrict the right to keep and bear arms, nor does it state or imply possession of the right elsewhere or by others than the people. It simply makes a positive statement with respect to a right of the people. Well, Shulman then asked if the right to keep and bear arms was granted by the Constitution or whether the right pre-existed the Constitution. Copperend: the right is not granted by the amendment. Its existence is assumed. The thrust of the sentence is that the right shall be preserved inviolate for the sake of ensuring a militia. Shulman then asks the next question, namely, is the right of the people to keep and bear arms conditioned upon whether or not a well-regulated militia is in fact necessary to the security of a free state? And if that condition is not existing, is the statement, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, now null and void? Copperend: no such condition is expressed or implied. The right to keep and bear arms is not said by the amendment to depend on the existence of a militia. The right to keep and bear arms is deemed unconditional by the entire sentence. Shulman concludes the exchange with an example even a progressive could understand. He sent Mr. Copperend a precisely grammatically identical sentence, which was, a well-schooled electorate being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and read books shall not be infringed. Does that mean, he asked, that only a well-schooled electorate, high school graduates let's say, are the only ones with the right to keep and read books? To which Mr. Copperend replied, there's nothing in your sentence that either indicates or implies the possibility of a restricted interpretation. So, what does the Second Amendment actually say, according to an expert on the American usage of the English language? Well, 1, a well-regulated militia is one of the nice things that an armed population can provide, but it's not the only thing, and it's not the reason to arm the people. 2, the right to keep and bear arms is reserved to the people, not to the militia. This makes sense when you think about it, because a militia is a group of citizens who bring their own weapons with them. That's why the amendment says that the people can not only bear arms, they can keep them at home where they live. And third, the right of the people to be armed is not even granted by the Second Amendment. That right is inherent in the people. And the Second Amendment says that the government cannot infringe upon that pre-existing right. Now finally, you might hear progressives say, well, that was written back in the days of flintlock muskets. They never would have approved of such a thing in the days of automatic weapons. Why not? A flintlock musket was the deadliest weapon available at the time. Why didn't they limit their definition of arms to pointy sticks? No, the founders placed no limitations on the numbers of the weapons or on their lethality. And by the way, if the Second Amendment only applies to flintlock muskets, does that mean that your First Amendment freedom of speech only applies to what you write on parchment and quill and ink, or only as far as the sound of your voice can carry in a town square? Well, of course not. You know why? Because that would be ridiculous. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to visit us at Truth Revolt.
And we've been saying that for years. People say, oh, Second Amendment doesn't apply to AR-15s because they couldn't have, the Founding Fathers never would have imagined that there was an AR-15, a death machine. Do you think that the Founding Fathers envisioned the internets and mobile phones?
I like the, when they compared it, they removed militia and put electorate, and then they removed arms and put books. I like that comparison.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, can you imagine all your liberal friends are, Second Amendment doesn't apply because they couldn't have imagined automatic weapons. Say, they couldn't have imagined radios and televisions either. So does the First Amendment only apply to, like I said, newspapers and pamphlets, or does it apply to TVs? Well, you know what? It might not. The First Amendment may no longer apply to mobile phones and televisions and so forth. And we're going to dig into that tomorrow on Student of the Gun. But until then, I am your host, Professor Paul Markel. Thank you for joining us for yet another edition of Student of the Gun Radio. Remember,
do you know what else we're going to be doing tomorrow?
What else are we going to be doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Wednesday.
That's
correct?
right.
So tomorrow is also the weekly fitness tip from Student of the Gun.
That's right. Make sure you're tuning in. Beginner once, student for life. Hippies.